أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا يضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. So I'm going to start off with 2 quotes. This will be a short quote, inshallah. Start with 2 quotes. First one is from Patrick Henry that we might all know. Give me liberty or give me death. Most of us have heard that before, growing up in school, learning about history, American history, and things like that. Patrick Henry was saying this, basically referring to the fact that he felt like the colonists, the people in America, or the white people that went to America and conquered the whole land and all that stuff, that they were being oppressed by the British Empire. So he was saying that the British should either give us liberty, or give them death. That's one quote. We all know it, we all heard it before growing up in school. Another one is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. It says, عن أبي موسى الأشعري رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يأكل الدجاجة. Now what does that mean? This is in Sahih al-Bukhari. This is Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, who's a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, saying, I saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam eating chicken. That's the hadith, just by itself. That's it. Now, what if I told you that this hadith is saying that this guy saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam eating chicken? You should believe in this more and have more yaqeen, more certainty in this than Patrick Henry saying, give me liberty, give me death. This hadith, simple hadith, it's literally only a few words, is more authentic. I'm not saying that Patrick Henry did not say, give me liberty, give me death. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying there's more evidence that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was eating chicken than Patrick Henry saying, give me liberty, give me death. Now this all ties into the science of hadith. Now I feel like hadith is something that we Muslims don't know a lot about, or we know a little bit about it and we kind of neglect it, and we don't understand how unique hadith actually are. And that there's nothing really that any other religion has that is even close or similar to hadith. So this khutbah will be short, inshallah. It'll be more of an educational khutbah. I won't go into like a lot of stories and it won't be as entertaining, but inshallah I'll just keep it short, simple, and inshallah we can benefit and learn something more about our religion from this. So first, what is exactly a hadith? We hear about it all the time. What exactly is a hadith? We just hear, okay, maybe it's something the Prophet ﷺ said in the Quran. That's kind of how we think about it, right? So the hadith is broken up into 4 categories. So hadith is either words actions, approval, meaning the Prophet ﷺ accepted it or he didn't say anything against it, and the description of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So anything he said, anything he did, anything he approved of, either by not saying anything, not going against it, or by simply saying this is a good thing, and his description. So the guy saying, I saw the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ eating chicken, that's a hadith because it's a description. He saw him eating chicken. And so that's a hadith. Anything the Prophet Muhammad said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, did, or approved of, or any of his descriptions. That's a hadith. Put simply. So hadiths are compiled or are narrated by companions. Now again, we hear what companions are, but just to give a very brief explanation, a companion is someone who met the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believed in him, and died upon that belief, meaning they didn't become non-Muslim at the end of their life. They met the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they converted, and they stayed Muslim until their death. So those are companions. And companions taught hadith, taught these things to what we call tabi'in. Tabi'in, to put it simply, they're the students of the companions. So there's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the main source. He teaches it to the companions, and the companions, after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died, have to teach it to somebody else, right? So they teach it to the tabi'in, who are the students of the companions. And so when people talk about hadith, and when you say it like this, a lot of people say that hadith is essentially hearsay, or it's Chinese whispers. Have you ever played the game Chinese Whispers as a kid? It's not a very politically correct name, but basically what that is, or at least what I remember, you would sit in like a circle. I played it as a kid. You'd sit in a circle, and somebody would say, I don't know, the sky is blue, or something like that. Any type of saying or whatever. And then you have to whisper it to the next person in the circle. And it keep going on and on and on and on until the last person. And the last person, once you ask them, okay, what did the person say? It would be something completely different than what the original person said. So people compare hadith to this because they say, okay, a hadith is the Prophet, and then the companion, and then the tabi'in, and then the person who learned from that guy, and the person who learned from that guy. It's Chinese whispers. That's what they say, right? Because it's just from this guy to this guy to this guy to this guy. Now, first of all, I think that's a terrible comparison, to be honest, because Chinese whispers, first of all, we're all kids. We were kids playing this game, right? We didn't have that much mental capacity. And second, you're whispering it. And third, people, I won't lie, me and myself would intentionally just lie and be like, he said something else. Just to make the game interesting, because if it ended up being the right thing, it's not going to be fun. So, that's not a good comparison. But people will say, you can't rely on testimony or like what somebody said from this guy and this guy and this guy. It could get lost, right? Or that you need some type of verifiable proof. You can't just go off of what somebody said. Now, this is interesting because when you first hear that, you're like, okay, that sounds about right. You can't just believe something because somebody told you. But what if I told you that almost everything that you and I believe, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about in general life. You believe it because somebody told you. You don't believe it because you researched it or you verified it yourself. You believe it because you trust the person who gave you the information. Let me give you an example. Everyone here, I'm pretty sure, believes that China exists. We all believe that, right? There's no conspiracy that China is not a real country, right? Now, most of us, I'm going to assume, have not been to China. Never been there, right? So how do you know China exists? It's because somebody told you. Now you can say, okay, I can go on Google and type in China, and there goes China right there. How do you know that's China? There's so many other countries that can look like that. There's Korea, there's Japan, there's Vietnam. How do you know it's China? How do you know? How do you know that country exists? It's because somebody told you. Same thing, going back to the Patrick Henry example, give me liberty or give me death. How do you actually know he said that? Because somebody told you. It's not because, and you can say, oh, it's in a history book. How do you know the person in the history book is giving you correct information? How do you know that? It's because you trust that person. It's not because you verified it yourself, you did the archaeological studies yourself and looked into it. You believe it because somebody told you. And this could literally go for anything, almost anything you believe. You did not verify it yourself. You believe it because you trust the person that gave you the information. Sometimes you trust them a little too much. So, that's just to conclude the fact that testimony or believing something that somebody told you is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's how most of us get our information. So it's not necessarily about the fact that you're getting it from a human being. It's the fact that you need to know whether you trust that person to give you reliable information or not. That's the main thing. And the Quran even alludes to this, because the sciences of hadith, or how hadith are compiled, it didn't just come out of nowhere. It also comes from the Quran. In Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا. That means, O you who believe, and I actually mentioned this ayah in a previous book I did, O you who believe, if a fasiq meaning a sinner, an open sinner, comes to you with news, verify it. So let's say you know somebody who is always a liar. They always lie, they never tell the truth. They come to you telling you, I don't know, a fire happened somewhere. That's news. You shouldn't just believe them because they're a liar. You should verify that news yourself, right? Now what does it have to do with hadith and believing in testimony and things like that? If for a sinner, an open sinner, you have to verify the news, the opposite is also true. If somebody comes to you and you know that they're a truthful person, they're not going to lie to you, they never lie, they don't do open sins or anything like that, you should probably believe them, what they're saying. And that might sound strange, but we do this all the time in our daily life. We go to a website, that, for example, we just think because, oh, it's a website or it's in a book, that it's any different. It's the same thing. A person made that website, a person made that book, a person wrote that article. You go there, you trust that website, you trust that person who made it, and they give you news or they give you information, and you believe that information. Why? Not because, it's just a person. It's because that person, in and of themselves, you know that they're trustworthy, and that they are someone who's not going to lie to you, and that they have a way of getting that information. Now, hadith are not even like that. That's the thing. Hadith are not even just like some random person giving you information. That's not what it is. Hadith have a much, much stricter way of being verified. So I'll just go through. So we know some of the levels of hadith. There's sahih, which means authentic. Then there's hasan, which means it's good. Da'if, which means it's weak. Da'if jiddan, which means it's very weak. And then fabricated. That means it's a complete lie. Now, we hear that and we're like, okay, we can't just take it for granted, right? The scholars didn't just come up with this out of nowhere, right? Because if you didn't have the system, let's say there's someone that you think you trust and they give you a hadith, and they don't have it, there's no criteria, it's just, okay, I trust this guy, I guess. Me personally, I trust him. That person could be a liar and you don't know, right? So the scholars created this system to make sure none of that happens. And so let's go to the highest level, which is sahih, authentic. So what are the conditions for a hadith being sahih, being authentic? Is it because I personally trust the guy? Or I just know the guy, he's my friend, we go out and play basketball? No. The criteria is that there has to be 3 things present and 2 things are absent. For a hadith, a hadith or a story about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to be authentic. 3 things have to be present, 2 things have to be absent. So the 3 things that have to be present is that every single person in that little chain I was telling you about, where it's this guy said to this guy, said to this guy, who said to a companion, first of all, before I even say that, it has to be connected. Now, what does that mean? So, first, if someone said, let's say it's me. I'll give myself an example, Ismael. Let's say, I, Ismael, am telling you, and I'm saying this as a hadith, that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said this. Is that okay?
I think so.
Okay. So let's say I am saying that I have a hadith. I have a hadith and I'm giving it to you to write in a book. I'm saying, I, Ismael, am reporting that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said this. You might trust me, you might like me, but that is not good enough at all. That is actually terrible. That's a terrible hadith. Why? Because I have never met the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. I never met him in my life, ever. I live in, this is the year 2023, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ lived actually 1,400 years ago. Actually, the new year just started, so it was like 1445. So it's that's the hijrah. But anyways, 1,400 years ago, several centuries ago, I never met him. So then I say, okay, Well, I know that Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr is the Prophet Muhammad's best friend, as we know. So I know that Abu Bakr said the Prophet Muhammad said this. That is still not good, because I never met Abu Bakr either. So what has to happen is that there has to be a generational change. So the Prophet Muhammad said this according to Abu Bakr, according to a tabi'i, because Abu Bakr is a companion, and his student will be a tabi'i. And then not only that, then the tabi'i, his student, heard from his student, from his student, from his student, from his student. So what has to happen is there has to be like a generation. So if there's a generational gap, so let's say for example, I am telling a story from my granddad or my great granddad. So I heard it from my dad, who heard it from my great granddad, and my dad never met my great granddad. That doesn't work. It has to be like, where's my granddad in there? He has to be there, or else it's not authentic. There can't be any gap in the generation. So it has to be connected in that way, first of all. But that's not good enough still. Everyone in that chain, they have to have lived in the same generation, or there has to be no generational gap, and they all have to be righteous, meaning that they are good Muslims, they pray 5 times a day, they don't miss a single prayer, which that means most of us would never be in this, right? They don't lie, they don't do anything wrong, nothing. You don't see them do anything wrong in public. Now obviously, everyone sins, but these are people that you never see them do any sin in public, ever. They're like the sheikhs, better than the sheikhs, like them. Like they're better than the scholars type people, right? So they have to be like that. Always praying, never to commit a major sin in public, nothing like that. Even if you see them lie once, that's it. Like you can't accept it. They tell one lie. If you know they tell one lie, you can't accept the hadith. Then on top of that, they have to have a strong memory. So that's pretty clear. They have to have a very strong memory. Not like their memory is good, not like, okay, they can memorize a textbook or something. No, they have to have a very strong memory. So much so that they can narrate something exactly, not just the meaning. What I mean by that is, let's say somebody gives a speech and then I summarize it. That's not strong memory. I'm just telling you what the overall meaning of what that person said was. I have to be able to quote directly everything he said, 100%. That's for a hadith to be sahih. So that's the 3 conditions right there. Right? Strong memory, good character, and has to be connected. There can be no missing generation. The 2 things that have to be absent is that it can't contradict another hadith or the Quran, right? And there can't be any hidden problems in the hadith. Now that's a whole long discussion, and that gets into why some scholars say a hadith is sahih, and why some scholars say that it's not sahih. It's not because of they just want it to be sahih. They find some problem in the middle that regular people like you and me can't find. So, I was getting a little bit long, so we'll take a break and ask Allah for forgiveness. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. So we went over what makes a hadith sahih. And what makes a hadith hasan. Hasan means it's good. That means you take it. It's good. Like the Prophet Muhammad definitely said it. The difference is that, let's say there's one hadith with a person, let's say it's Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He's the founder of the Hanbali madhab. He founded a whole school of thought in Islam by himself. And then there's another hadith narrated by somebody who's just a regular scholar. And they have a decent memory, a good memory. But obviously, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, his memory is better. And he's literally the leader of a whole school of thought in Islam. His hadith is going to be sahih, his hadith will be hasan. If there's a slight difference, you're going to take the sahih one over the hasan one. That's basically what the difference is. So it's still, you take it, it's still good, but it doesn't take precedence over a sahih hadith. So if the wording is slightly different, then the sahih one is probably the correct one. Let's say, like for example, let's say hypothetically, the hadith I told you, the Prophet Muhammad was eating chicken. If one says he was eating chicken, the other one says he was consuming chicken, and the one that is saying he's eating chicken is sahih, and the other one is hasan, which means it's good, you take the sahih one. So it's probably he was eating chicken, not consuming chicken. So even though it's the same thing, the wording is slightly different, but you take the one that's of a higher rank. So that's still good. Then there's da'if. Da'if means it's weak, meaning it's kind of iffy. You probably shouldn't use it for things like whether something is permissible or not, or for theology, or just for your day-to-day things that you do. So for example, if a da'if hadith is telling you to pray one way, and a sahih hadith, this is hypothetical, a sahih hadith is telling you to pray another way, or even a hasan hadith is telling you to pray another way, take the hasan hadith, don't take the da'if hadith, obviously. Even if there is no hadith saying one way or the other, if it's just by itself, a da'if hadith, a weak hadith, you probably don't want to use that on how to pray, or how to fast, or how to do anything like that. Scholars say that you can use it for things like encouraging people. So for example, if there's a hadith that talks about a reward for somebody who memorizes the Quran, you can take that, even though it's weak. But you have to mention that it's weak. You can't just say, oh, it's a hadith, believe it. No, it's a weak hadith, but you can use it to encourage people to do good things. So then there's, and the way a hadith can be weak is if there's a chain, but like I said, there's somebody missing. So after like the year 100, there's no one there, and then the year 200, there's somebody there. That doesn't work. That's a da'if hadith, that's weak. You can't use it. Even if everybody else in the chain has a strong memory, they're all intelligent, they're all very good Muslims, if there's somebody missing in their generation, then you can't take it. Or even something like they didn't live in the same area, you can't take it. So that would be an example. Or somebody has a weak memory. And weak, when I say weak memory, I'm not talking about they're forgetful. I mean they have a regular, average memory like you and me. They would not take our hadith. Some of us, we have decent memory, but they will not take it because it's not good enough. So that's a da'if for a weak hadith. Then there's very weak, which is really obvious. No one's going to take that. Then there's fabricated, which means we know for a fact somebody lied. A weak hadith, it is not necessarily somebody lying, it's more of a mistake. A fabricated hadith, somebody lied. They were trying to smear the Prophet ﷺ, or they just made something up. So that is those are the categories of hadith. And in fact, the famous hadith book that we all know, Sahih Bukhari, actually went even further. Imam Bukhari went even further than all this I'm telling you right now. He had to prove exactly that the people met in such and such place at such and such time. And he had criteria that would sound kind of ridiculous to us. So, and that's why his book is considered like one of the most authentic books of hadith. Now, why am I telling you all this? You know, it's just kind of like an educational clip and whatnot. So why am I telling you all this? What can you get from this? I mainly want to say this just because I want us to get an appreciation of what we have in our religion. Because if you really think about it, no other historical method, like history method or anything like that, has something similar to hadith. It doesn't exist. Like I said, for Patrick Henry, do you have something where the person who met Patrick Henry goes to the person who he taught, to the person he taught, to the person he taught, and then they all know, okay, yeah, this person, everyone in this chain is a righteous, good person who doesn't tell lies. Do we have that? No. We don't. We go by documents, but how do you know the document was written by that person? I'm not saying that Patrick Henry didn't say those words. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that the hadith give you much more certainty than other historical documents or historical methods. That's what I'm trying to say. So things that you hear about in the Sunnah, for example, splitting of the moon, when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ pointed to the moon and it split. That, not only is that hadith sahih, meaning everyone who narrated it is righteous, they don't tell lies, they have a strong memory, and everything that I just mentioned. Not only that, it's also mutawatir. Now, what does mutawatir mean? So remember those chains I'm talking about where it's one person telling to one person to one person to one person? There's multiple of those. Meaning, multiple people saw it at the same time. So let's say the moon split. I'm giving you an example. I'm not saying this is actually the companions who saw it or anything like that. But let's say Abu Bakr saw it and Umar saw it. So then Abu Bakr goes to Egypt, Umar goes to Persia, right? And then they start telling their students and their students and their students in different places, in different times. That has to happen multiple times in order for a hadith to be mutawatir. That means that multiple people saw it. It'd be the same thing as denying that China exists. The reason why denying China exists is foolish is because we know not only that, we can verify it through the internet and things like that, but multiple people, everyone we know agrees and has seen, knows about China. There's several people who've been to that country and said, okay, this country is called China, these people speak Cantonese or Chinese or anything like that. That's how we know, because multiple people saw it. And if you deny it, then you're basically saying there was a mass conspiracy all over the world to say that a country called China exists when it doesn't exist. And that'd be foolish. That's the same thing as denying the splitting of the moon or any other thing in Islamic history that happened. So for example, in the Battle of Hunayn with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was charging against to a town, and they were throwing arrows at him and all the other Muslims that were there, and they were killing him, and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was still charging forward, not scared at all. That actually happened. You and me, if I saw an arrow coming towards me, I'd run away really quickly. Like, it wouldn't even be a question. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, this is the authentic thing that actually happened. Everyone who was involved in telling you this story is a good Muslim, righteous, does not tell a lie, has a strong memory, it didn't contradict any other narration, and has no problems in it. That actually happened. He actually did that. No other religion or any other historical method has this. The Bible, for example. I don't want to, say anything bad about the Bible, but I'm just being honest. You don't have, for example, in the New Testament, you don't have a link between the people who wrote the New Testament and Jesus. You don't have that. There is none. It's people writing centuries later. The Hadith are not like that. The Hadith are not people writing centuries later. The Hadith are people, it's a tradition, an oral tradition essentially. Going from one person to the person who met this person, who met this person, who met a companion, who met the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So I just want us to appreciate that more and really think about that, because we hear all these other historical events that happened, and we for certain believe them. But then Hadith, we feel a little bit shy to talk about them, like, the Prophet Muhammad split the moon, who's going to believe that? They should believe it. If they believe all this other stuff that has much less criteria for authentication, they should believe in the Hadith. That's all I want to say. Wa alaikum assalam.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح أقامت الصلاة أقامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Look at your zakat obligations. If you want to do your zakat via Cash App, it is $MWSALAAM. That's $MWSALAAM. If you want to donate on the P.O. Box, it is P.O. Box 1802, Norfolk, Virginia 23501. Or you can send your zakat directly to the masjid at 614 West 35th Street, Norfolk, Virginia 23508. I'll be here in the morning, inshallah, to open for Fajr prayer at 4:30, and on Sunday, inshallah, at 4:30. There will be a Taaleem at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Also, I was contacted by one of the believers who moved to North Carolina, who's having some difficulty with his rent. I didn't want to say his name specifically, especially since it's on video. But if you all know him, we all know him, that's been to the community, been in this community. He's having some difficulties with this, so if anybody's able to donate some money to him and his rent, please do so. And if you do it on Cash App, just put for believers' rent, or you can put it on the zakat form, or if you have some physical money, just notate that so we'll have it to him. What we'll have to do is mail it to him. So inshallah, if you have anything that you can move forward for his rent, I'd appreciate it. I'm sure he definitely would. There are people who are not doing well physically, they are sick, and mentally, everything else, so we should make dua for everybody in the community, outside of the community. So just think of everybody and everybody that is in need. We will postpone the spoken word that we were doing for tonight. If there are some people who are interested, some people who have some talent like spoken word, like the brother I'm looking at right now. I know he has talent with those words, so we're trying to garner some more attention for it. So we'll have some people that are out, and we'll come up with another date so people will be able to. There's another brother right there who said he's going to participate. So we want to have that done. We don't have Arabic class this week. It's every other week. We will be, I will be setting up a Zoom for Arabic class, inshallah, in the next couple of weeks, and I'll send the email out for that. And we'll have a Quranic recitation that we'll have done. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? Like you had something you wanted to say. I was forgetting. Okay. Again, make sure you make dua for everybody that is in need, and we all are in need. Yes, sir.
Do you still have a team or a committee that check on the sick?
So visit the sick?
Yeah.
We do. I'm not sure when the last time they went to see those people who are in need and sick, but we definitely do. If you get with Brother Wali, I think he can help you with that, or tell you when the last time that it's actually been done. I did go visit the brother, the brother that comes here with his kids, Brother Ravin, who was doing the painting. He's under the weather, so to speak, so if anybody's interested in reaching out to him, you don't have to go to his house, just call him. Sometimes people don't want to be, they feel maybe they don't want any visitors, but if you reach out to him, call him, there's somebody that is in need, let us know so we can contact them. People are always letting me know about their loved ones, their children who are sick. I got a friend of mine right now whose son is in the emergency, or he's in intensive care, and he's about a year old. So people are in need, definitely, and we should always be thankful for the health that Allah gives us, and make sure that we pray for those people who are not as healthy as we are. Similar.
Yes, sir.